Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jowy and I'm your fashion and style consultant. I just want to share a bit of my background and how I got to this point, as a fashion and style consultant, like what has led me here. And looking back to my teenage years, I can really relate to how I've gotten to this point, like how it is that I do what I do today. Because as a teenager, I remember loving clothes and looking good. And I think that's like very common with teenagers, maybe. I don't know, but in my case, that's what it was. And it was really easy because around me, so with my sisters and my cousins, there was like a group of us and we hung out a lot. Like we spent a lot of time together and we could relate on one thing, which was like clothes and really looking good. And thinking about it, to be honest, we always stood out. Like friends always came up to us and looked up to us for fashion inspiration or like fashion advice, clothes, what to wear and stuff like that. And I can remember like watching music videos and like imitating what people wore. Like it was just very interesting, to dress up. And as I said, we always stood out. So my teenage years, that's what it was. But like in secondary school, what some people would say high school, in secondary school we were all in boarding school, so we had to wear uniforms. But when we came home for holidays, another thing is I had elder ones, and some of my older ones were like siblings. I had older siblings, and my older siblings at that point were in like university, so for them they were freer to dress up, because we had to wear uniforms when we were in school because we were in high school. But when we came home for holidays, we would always dress up, with my older sister and my older cousins too, and even my older brothers, But it wasn't so much fashion for them, it was music. But fashion and music have a lot in common. So like generally when we came home for holidays, we would dress up a lot. And so after holidays, going back to school, I could tell that my peers, were always amused or excited by what we wore based on pictures that we brought back to school. That's what I'm saying. And university. So university for us at the time, it's just like it was your ticket to fly. So whatever it was you have been waiting to do, with no supervision, like no parents' eyes on you, and that was your first time of being able to live on your own, not in control of everyone, because you had to go to school, be on campus or off campus, whatever it was. But that was your first feel of independence, right? So as I said, it was your ticket to fly, university. And in my own case, I could fly in terms of dressing up and looking good. Oh, did I mention I'm from the northern part, middle belt of Nigeria, and we from that side are quite conservative, so you can imagine that at home it was, my home was not too strict, but the culture generally was very conservative. So going to university, that was a very strong part of it. However, I was still free to fly in terms of dressing up, colors, and like really looking good. And one thing is, I was always broke. And I was always broke because when it was almost time to go back to school, your parents would give you pocket money for school and stuff, and I would shop. Like first thing on my mind is like buying clothes or beautiful clothes for school. And my friends who lived abroad at the time, all of them, there was one common thing. Whenever they were coming home, they brought, like really nice clothes for me, because that was just what it was for me. So university was very interesting. That was the point where we were all independent for the first time, and my ticket to fly was in fashion. I loved clothes, I dressed up enough, and I always stood out. And there's one thing very common in Nigeria, like if you dress up too much or if you look good all the time, so to speak, you're looked at as an unserious person. But in my case, to be honest, that's the only sense of authenticity, that was the only way I knew how to live, how to exist. And then to worsen it all, I was in sciences. So art was really looked at as not as serious as sciences. And I was in sciences, and I was always dressing up really nice to class. So that really made me stand out. And I'll be honest, more than pay attention in class, my attention was a lot, like, as absurd as this may sound, my attention most of the time was on what I'm wearing next, how to pair my colors, how to look good. And at that time, it was just so bad. Like, you can imagine the pressure at the time, because you were just looked at as an unserious person, looking good all the time and not really paying attention to class. And as a result of that, I'll be honest, I didn't do so well. I didn't do so well in sciences. And after that, after a while, rather, I left. And that's when I went to fashion school. But before I got to fashion school, after I left university, nothing changed in terms of fashion. Nothing changed. It all only got better. And I left to Banjul at some point in my life. So that was after university. I left to Banjul, and while I was in Banjul, same thing. I always stood out. And the funny part of this is, this was effortless. This was really effortless. As a matter of fact, I remember a time when one of my cousins said, "Jowy, if you were not my cousin, I would think you were a witch, because you will wake up at night," and I had sleepless nights just thinking about beautiful clothes and wanting to dress up. So I was up at night. When I couldn't sleep at night, I'll be trying on beautiful clothes. And in the middle of the night, my cousin woke up and she saw me in front of the mirror trying on beautiful clothes. And she just said to me, "Oh my God, Jowy, it's just because you are my cousin and I really know who you are. This is crazy," So, and then I was in Banjul, and I always stood out as well, because looking good was just a part of me. It had just become a part of me. In Banjul, I lived with my aunt. She was the ambassador at the time. And because of, I think she saw something in me that just wouldn't die, regardless, what I went through, the culture I came from, or the pressure that surrounded me. And that was my ticket to get into Milan, where I went to Italy and I studied fashion. You can imagine that Milan, Italy was a very, very unique experience. It was so beautiful, and that's a story for another day. Like, that's literally an episode on its own. But Milan really opened my eyes to a lot. That's where you understand the depth of what fashion is. I think before then, fashion was more of a surface thing for me. It was just colors and looking good. But going to Milan, like, there's an in-depth to how the Italians relate to fashion, and I lived it for a while, and that was really beautiful. And it was at that point that my career in fashion began. And then I went back to Lagos, Nigeria. And Lagos, Nigeria is another hot cake when it comes to fashion. Like, in Africa, in the world generally, like, when you look at Africa, you look towards Lagos, Nigeria, because Nigerians in general dress up. So doing what I did and being a Nigerian, I came back to Lagos, Nigeria, and started to build a career. And this was very different, because it was more of a business at this point. It wasn't just fun and passion, it became a business, so that was a different ball game altogether, where the attention was no more on me and looking good. It became attention to details for my clients, and because I did what I did, like seriously, and paid close attention to it, I worked with some really, really good projects in Lagos, Nigeria. I mean, we're still on it, right? Because we're still alive. But so yeah, that's what my journey to fashion has been so far. I just remembered something. I remember when I was in Milan and Abercrombie and Fitch, there's something they do at their stores, at their flagship stores. So at Abercrombie and Fitch, the guys in front of the store stand shirtless, right? And it was interesting to see. I really, really loved that store, the flagship store. It was a very, very beautiful concept. But anyway, that aside. And when I came back home once for holiday, my older brother saw a picture of me, and this card was literally written Abercrombie and Fitch, and it was me standing to one of the models who was standing shirtless, and that was an issue. And this is because of where I'm from, the conservative culture and stuff like that. So my brother was worried, my older brother at this point, and he's just like, oh my God, I don't know if we should have let her go, to study there. Because for them, it's just like exposing me to too much, I guess. But it was nothing. It was just me exploring different concepts of what fashion means to different people. And I mean, I'm mentioning this because as I said, there was no other way I could exist. It was just me expressing myself, and I can relate to why I am where I am today, because up until date, I stand out like in my family, at place of work. I mean, when I was back home in Abuja, before I moved to Lagos, I worked for a little bit. The way I dressed up, you'd think I was the boss of the company. And that was because I was excited. That was my first job. I was excited at the fact that I could now interpret that kind of fashion, so I'm talking like corporate fashion. So I dressed up so much. I looked good all the time at work. And at some point, I looked even better than my boss. But, it was no offense, like, not to hurt anyone, but it was just me being me. So there's been a lot of challenges. What I'm trying to say is that there's been a lot of challenges in my journey through fashion, but I've come to discover that nothing has been able to kill it, like to quench the fire, so to speak. Nothing has been able to quench the fire. I've still been authentic to myself. I love beautiful clothes. I love fashion. I love style. I love to help people look good. I'm happy to give out advice, and knowing that I can even build a career in fashion, like back in the days when I realized that I could actually build a career in fashion. It was just like heaven on earth for me. So yeah, my name is Jowy. I'm a fashion and style consultant, and this is a bit of my journey to where I am today as a fashion stylist. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and share with people who need to hear this, because I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there who are suppressing their authentic self for one reason or the other, and I don't see a need for that. Just be you and free to fly, because to be honest, that's where your happy place is. Thank you for watching, and see you again next week.